"Get out of here, I did not invite you." My daughter-in-law screamed when I tried to sit at the table that I had set myself since 5 in the morning for her birthday. But that was my house. I stood up, slowly walked toward the door, and did something that left all the guests frozen. Jessica's words cut through the air like broken glass. All the guests froze forks halfway to their mouths, glasses suspended in the air. The silence that followed was so heavy you could feel it on your skin. My hands were still stained with flour. I had started cooking at 5 in the morning. I made the pot roast exactly how Matt has liked it since he was a boy. Homemade lasagna with 3 cheeses savory rice, and those mashed potatoes with the secret gravy recipe. I cut fresh flowers from my garden, those hydrangeas I planted 20 years ago with my husband, and I placed them in vases all over the living room. I cleaned every corner, polished the floors until they shined, and ironed the embroidered tablecloths my mother left me when she passed away. I did it all for Jessica's birthday, my daughter-in-law, the wife of my only son. And when I tried to sit at the head of my own table in the house I built with my own hands alongside my late husband Henry, she looked at me as if I were trash on the sidewalk. "That seat is for my mother," she shouted, pointing her finger at me as if I were a naughty child. "You sit over there next to the kitchen in case we need anything served." The eyes of her friends pierced right through me. Some looked down, embarrassed. Others smiled with that silent cruelty that only women know. Matt, my son, my own flesh and blood, stood next to Jessica, with his mouth open, but without words, without a single word to defend me. To understand how I ended up kicking my own family out of my house, I need to take you back 3 years. To the day Matt arrived with a smile I had not seen on his face since he was a teenager. "Mom, I met someone." He told me that April afternoon, his eyes shining like carnival lights. I was in the backyard pruning my rose bushes. I took off my gardening gloves and looked at him. My son was 34 years old and had just come out of 2 difficult relationships. Seeing him like this, so excited, filled me with hope. "Her name is Jessica. She's incredible, Mom. Smart, educated, ambitious. She works in digital marketing. I met her at a business conference in Chicago." 2 weeks later, Jessica appeared at my door with a bouquet of white lilies and a perfect smile. She wore a burgundy dress, elegant but not exaggerated. Her brown hair was pulled back in a flawless ponytail, discreet makeup. She smelled of expensive perfume. "Mrs. Catherine," she said with a sweet voice, "Matt has told me so much about you. It is an honor to meet the woman who raised such a wonderful man." We need the right words, the right tone, the right attitude. I welcomed her into my living room. I served her fresh coffee with the cinnamon rolls I had baked that morning. Jessica asked about the photos on the wall. She praised my plants. She listened attentively when I told her how Henry and I paid for this house, dollar by dollar, working double shifts for 5 years. "What an inspiring story," she said, touching my hand. "Women of your generation are made of steel. I aspire to have your strength." She charmed me. I admit it without shame. Jessica conquered me just as she conquered Matt. 2 months later, she came to see me alone. She seemed nervous. She was playing with her hands. "Mrs. Catherine, I need to ask you a favor. I am so embarrassed, but I am trying to launch my own consulting business and the bank denied my loan. Matt does not know because I do not want to worry him. I know it is a lot to ask, but could you lend me $2,500? I will pay you back in 6 months with interest if you want." She looked down with glassy eyes. "I understand if you say no. I have no right to ask you this, but you are the only person I trust." I had those savings tucked away for emergencies money I had gathered, selling homemade pies on weekends for years after Henry died. But Jessica seemed so sincere, so vulnerable. "I do not need interest," I told her. "You are practically family." She hugged me, crying. "Thank you, Mrs. Catherine. You do not know what this means to me. I swear I will pay you back." I never saw that money again. When my sister Lucy met Jessica at a family dinner, she pulled me aside into the kitchen. "Catherine, that girl has the face of a gold digger," she whispered while we washed the dishes. "Did you see how she looks at the house, like she is appraising it?" "Lucy, you have always been suspicious," I replied, annoyed. "Jessica is a good girl. Matt is happy." "All right," my sister sighed. "But when things get ugly, remember that I warned you." I did not listen to her. I defended Jessica when Lucy made comments, even when my daughter Valerie, who lived in Texas, called me worried. "Mom, I investigated Jessica on social media. She has photos in super expensive restaurants, trips to Hawaii designer clothes. Where does she get the money if she's barely starting her business?" "Valerie, do not be a gossip," I told her. "Social media does not show the full reality." 6 months after that first meeting, Matt announced they were getting married. "It was fast, I know," he said. "But when you know, and Mom Jessica is the love of my life." I organized the wedding. I booked the hall, I paid for the banquet. For 100 people, I spent $10,000 that I had saved for my old age. Jessica chose everything, the flowers, the music, even the menu. I just signed the checks and smiled. "Thank you, Mrs. Catherine," she would always say. "I do not know what we would do without you." On the wedding day, as I watched her walk down the aisle in that white dress that cost $3,000, I felt a strange pinch in my chest, like a warning I did not know how to listen to. Matt looked at her as if she were an angel sent down from heaven, and I, foolish me, thought I was gaining a daughter. I did not know I was losing a son. The first 3 months after the wedding were normal. Jessica and Matt came to eat on Sundays. They helped me with the heavy groceries they called to ask how I was. I thought everything would be fine, but the cracks began to appear one Saturday afternoon. They arrived without warning. I was in old sweatpants with my hair in a messy braid cleaning the windows. I heard the key in the lock and was surprised. "Matt, what are you doing here?" I asked. "Mom, I told you Jessica needed to use your kitchen today. Don't you remember?" He had not told me anything. But I saw Jessica's look, that tense smile, and I did not want to make a scene. "Of course, son. Go ahead." Jessica walked straight into my kitchen as if it were hers. She opened the pantry where I keep my spices and frowned. "Mrs. Catherine, how do you find anything in here? Everything is a mess." She started taking out jars, reorganizing, moving my things around. I stood in the doorway watching how she touched what my husband and I had arranged over years. "It is fine like that, Jessica," I said gently. "I know where everything is." No, it is better in alphabetical order. Believe me, it is more efficient." Matt was in the living room on his phone, ignoring everything. That was the first time, but not the last. 2 weeks later, they arrived again. This time, Jessica brought furniture catalogs. "Mrs. Catherine, I was thinking, that green sofa in the living room is very outdated, don't you think? It is already like 20 years old." 23 years, I said. I had bought it with Henry when Matt turned 11. I remembered the day perfectly. He was so happy because we finally had a new sofa, not secondhand. "I like that sofa," I said. "Oh, Catherine, but it really shows its age. Look, here are some modern ones. Minimalist. Matt and I could buy it for you as a gift." "I do not need a gift. My sofa is fine." Jessica exchanged a look with Matt. He shrugged his shoulders. "Mom, maybe Jessica is right. A change would be good." I felt as if I had been slapped, but I swallowed hard and smiled. "We will see." The next month, the attack was more direct. Jessica was in my dining room looking at the display cabinet where I kept my mother's porcelain china. 24 plates, cups, bowls with hand-painted flowers. My mother had brought them from Europe when she got married. It was the only material thing I had left of her. "You know what, Mrs. Catherine? This china is taking up a lot of space. When was the last time you used it?" "At Christmas." I lied. The truth is, I did not use it because I was afraid it would break, but it was mine. We could sell it. I saw on the internet that this type of antique porcelain goes for a good price. Maybe you could get around $1,000 or $1,500. With that, you could buy new clothes, right? I've noticed you wear the same clothes a lot." The blood rushed to my face. "My clothes are fine, and my china is not for sale." "It was just a suggestion," Jessica said, raising her hands. "Do not get offended." But I was already offended. I was beginning to understand something I did not want to accept. Jessica was not visiting me. Jessica was inspecting. The following months were worse. She started arriving without warning sometimes when I was in my pajamas drinking my morning coffee. She would open my refrigerator and comment, "Mrs. Catherine, you have too many expired things here." She checked my bathroom and said, "These tiles need urgent renovation." One day she arrived with a huge box. "I brought new dishes for your kitchen. The others are too scratched." They were my dishes, the ones I had used for 30 years. Yes, they had marks of use, but they worked perfectly. "I do not need them, Jessica. I already bought them. They cannot be returned." And so, little by little, my house started to stop feeling like mine. Jessica brought things, moved things, threw things away. Always with that sweet smile, always with those words, "It is for your own good, Mrs. Catherine. I only want to help. Believe me, it is better this way." And Matt never said anything, absolutely nothing. One afternoon after they left, I sat on my green sofa, the one Jessica hated, and I cried. I cried for the first time since Henry's funeral, because I was starting to feel like a visitor in my own home, as if my life, my memories, my things did not matter, as if I were in the way. But the worst had not arrived yet, because Jessica did not just want to change my house, she wanted to change me. And soon I would discover how far she was willing to go. The Christmas of that year changed everything. It was December. I had already taken the Christmas decorations out of the closet, the nativity set that Henry and I bought at a vintage shop 30 years ago. The red and gold ornaments, the lights we put in the window every year. I had everything planned. I would make my special glazed, ham-candied yams fruit punch. Christmas was always sacred in my house. But Jessica had other plans. She arrived on a Tuesday afternoon with Matt. She did not even knock. She used the key I had given her for emergencies. "Mrs. Catherine, we have exciting news," she said with that cheerful voice that was already starting to make me nervous. "This year, we are going to host Christmas dinner here, but I will take care of everything." "What do you mean you will take care of it? I always make Christmas dinner." "I know, but it is a lot of work for you. You do not have the same energy as before. Better rest and let me handle it." I was 68 years old, not 90. I could still cook perfectly. "Jessica, I appreciate the gesture, but—" "It is already decided, Mom," Matt interrupted. "Jessica invited her family, too. It is going to be about 20 people. It is too much for you alone." 20 people, her family, in my house on my Christmas. "Nobody consulted me," I said, feeling my voice crack. "We do not need to consult Mom. It is our house, too, now." Those words hit me like punches. Our house. As if Jessica had rights over the place where I had raised my children, where my husband had died in my arms, where every corner held 40 years of memory. "This is my house, Matt," I said firmly. He sighed, annoyed. "Mom, do not start. Jessica just wants to help." Do not start. As if I were a bratty child. Christmas Eve arrived. Jessica transformed my living room into something unrecognizable. She removed my nativity scene and put up a modern silver tree with minimalist ornaments. She changed my embroidered tablecloths for plain white ones. She hid my traditional decorations in boxes because they cluttered the space. Her family arrived first. Her mother, Stella, her father, Richard, her 2 brothers with their wives, her nephews, people I did not know invading my home. They sat in my living room as if they were the owners. Jessica's mother looked me up and down and said, "So you are the mother-in-law. Jessica has told me a lot about you." The tone was not kind. It was evaluating, as if she were inspecting a piece of used furniture. I had prepared punch, even though Jessica said it was not necessary. I served it in silence while she received compliments for the decoration that I hated. "Jessica, what good taste you have," said her mother. "This house needed an urgent renovation." Valerie arrived from Texas with her husband Dan and my two grandkids Sophie and Mason. My daughter hugged me tight and whispered in my ear, "Mom, what happened to Grandpa's nativity set?" "Jessica packed it away," I said without looking at her. I saw Valerie clench her jaw, but she said nothing. She did not want to ruin the dinner. Jessica served roast turkey with truffle mashed potatoes. Nothing traditional, nothing I would have made, but everyone applauded and congratulated her. I ate in silence at a corner of the table like a last-minute guest. After dinner, I offered to help clean up. "No, Mrs. Catherine, you better go rest. You are too old for these things." That phrase, "You are too old." I felt something break inside me, but I nodded and went to my room. I sat on the bed looking at Henry's photos on the nightstand. I cried in silence so no one would hear me. Past midnight, I went out to the bathroom. The house was dark. I heard voices in the kitchen, Jessica and her mother. I froze in the hallway listening. "And when do you think it will happen?" Stella asked. "I do not know, Mom. But it will not be long now. She is 68. At that age, anything can happen." "And are you sure Matt is going to inherit the house? He is the only son. Obviously, she is going to leave everything to him. The sister does not count. She lives in Texas." They laughed, both of them. "When it happens," Jessica continued, "we will sell this house immediately. I already saw that it is worth about $600,000. With that, we can buy something modern in a gated community. This neighborhood is already very run down." "And what if the old lady lives many more years?" There was a silence. Then Jessica spoke with a coldness that froze my blood. "There are ways to accelerate things. Nursing homes, for example. Matt is already considering the idea. He says his mom is very lonely here, that it would be better if she were in a place with more people." "Smart. And that way the house is free." "Exactly." I leaned against the wall to keep from falling. My legs were trembling. My heart was beating so fast I thought they could hear it. My daughter-in-law, the woman I lent money to, whom I defended, whom I welcomed as a daughter, was waiting for me to die, planning to lock me in a home, planning to sell the house I built with my own hands. And Matt knew, my son knew, and not only did he not defend me, he agreed. I returned to my room as best I could. I sat on the bed with a blank stare until the sun began to rise. That Christmas, I did not sleep, but I woke up. Because sometimes the greatest gift is not what they give you, it is what they take away, so you can finally see the truth. I spent 3 days without talking to anyone after Christmas. Valerie returned to Texas worried. She called me every night asking if I was okay. I told her yes, that I was just tired. I could not tell her yet what I had heard. I needed to confirm it first. I needed to give Matt the chance to prove me wrong. On December 29th, I called him. My voice was trembling. "Son, could you come to the house, just you? I need to talk to you." "Sure, Mom. I will be there in the afternoon." He arrived at 5. I saw him enter, and my heart squeezed. That was my baby. The boy I nursed, whom I cared for when he had chicken pox, whom I cheered for at his graduation. The man whose father taught him to ride a bike in this very backyard. When had I stopped knowing him? "What is wrong, Mom? You sound worried." We sat in the living room, on the green sofa that Jessica hated. I took a deep breath. Matt, on Christmas night, I heard Jessica talking to her mother in the kitchen. I saw how his face changed. He knew exactly what I was going to talk about. They were talking about this house, about selling it when I die, about putting me in a nursing home. The silence that followed was deafening. "Mom, it is not how you think." "It is not how I think." I stood up, the blood boiling in my veins. "Then how is it?" "Matt, which part did I misunderstand? The part where your wife waits for me to die, or the part where you are already considering locking me in a facility?" "Mom, lower your voice. This is my house. I will scream if I want to." Matt rubbed his hands over his face, nervous. I knew him so well that I could see every lie forming before it left his mouth. Jessica did not mean it. Sometimes she speaks without thinking. You know how women are when they are with their mothers. Do not come to me with those cheap excuses. I interrupted him. So are you planning to sell my house? It is not just your house, Mom. Someday it will be mine too. It is the inheritance Dad left me. Those words hit me harder than any insult from Jessica. Your father built this house for me so that I would have a safe roof when he was no longer here, not so you and your wife could sell it as if it were a vacant lot. Mom, you need to be realistic. You are alone here. This house is too big for one person. There are very nice assisted living communities where you would be accompanied with activities with people your age. I do not want to be with people my age. I want to be in my house, the house where your sister was born, where your father died, in my arms, where I keep every memory of my life. But Mom, think about it. We could visit you more often if you were in a place closer to our work. And this house, it is worth a lot of money. Money that Jessica and I could use for our future, to have children. I sat down again. My legs would no longer hold me. Have children, I whispered. You are going to use the money from my house to have children who will never know this house, who will never know where their father grew up. You do not understand. You are right. I do not understand how my son turned into this. Matt stood up annoyed. His eyes no longer held warmth, only impatience. I knew you would react like this. That is why Jessica told me not to tell you anything yet. You are too emotional, Mom. You cannot think with logic. Emotional? Of course I am emotional. I am talking about my life, about my home. Look, Mom, I did not come here to argue. I came because you called me. But if you are only going to attack Jessica and make me feel guilty for thinking about my future, I better go. Matt, please sit down. Let's talk calmly. No, I already know how this ends. You crying me, feeling like the terrible son. Well, you know what, Mom? I am tired. Tired of feeling guilty for having a life of my own. Tired that everything has to revolve around your feelings. He walked toward the door. I followed him, pleading like I never thought I would. Matt, please do not leave like this. You are my son. I love you. I just want to understand what is happening. He stopped with his hand on the handle. He looked at me over his shoulder. What is happening? Mom, is that you are no longer my priority. My priority now is Jessica. She is my wife. And if I have to choose between you two, I have already chosen. The door closed. I stood in the foyer watching the empty space where my son had been. The only son I had left in this city. The boy who had been my world. And he had just chosen a woman who wanted to erase me from existence. I walked like a zombie to my room. I sat on the bed. I took the rosary my mother gave me when I made my first communion, and I prayed. I prayed like I had not prayed in years. I did not ask for things to get better. I asked for strength. Because in that moment, I understood something fundamental. No one was going to save me. Not Matt, not Valerie, who was far away, not God himself. If I wanted to keep my dignity, my house, my life, I would have to fight for it myself. And boy, was I going to fight. Because sometimes a mother's love has to transform into something else to survive, into something colder, more calculating, more dangerous. After that conversation with Matt, something changed in me, or maybe something broke. I was no longer the compliant mother who swallowed hard and smiled. But I was not yet the woman who would face everything. I was in an intermediate place, a dangerous place, a place where you observe, where you take notes, where you prepare. And while I prepared, Jessica advanced. January was the month of my complete humiliation. Everything started when Matt called me one Sunday morning. Mom, Jessica and I are going to spend the afternoon there. She wants to reorganize some things. What things? I asked, my stomach tightening. Just the living room and the dining room. She says there are too many accumulated things. Do not worry, we are not going to throw anything important away. They arrived at 3 in the afternoon. Jessica brought cardboard boxes and garbage bags. She had her hair up in a high ponytail, sweatpants ready to work. "Hello, Mrs. Catherine." She greeted me with that smile that no longer fooled me. "We are going to do a deep cleaning. You will see how much better you will feel with fewer things around." She started with the living room. She took the embroidered cushions my sister Lucy had given me and put them in a box. "These are already very old." She took down the painting of the Virgin Mary that Henry had hung on the wall. "This gives the space a very outdated vibe." "Jessica, my husband, hung that painting." "We will store it, do not worry, but here in this spot a mirror works better. It makes the room look bigger." Matt carried the boxes without saying a word, without looking at me, but the worst came when she entered my bedroom. "Mrs. Catherine, we need to talk about your closet. You have clothes from 20 years ago. Let me help you select what stays and what goes." "I do not need help with my clothes." "Of course you do. Look, these dresses do not even fit you, and these sweaters are eaten by moths. We have to throw all this out." She started taking out my clothes, judging every garment. There were dresses I wore at my children's birthdays, blouses, Henry gave me sweaters my mother knitted. Every piece had a story. Every piece was a fragment of my life. This goes, this too," she said, throwing my life into black garbage bags. "Enough," I shouted. "You are not going to throw away my clothes." "Mrs. Catherine, be reasonable. You have not used this in years. It is just taking up space. It is my space, my closet, my room." Jessica sighed with that exaggerated patience used with children or difficult elderly people. "Matt, come here, please." My son entered the room. Jessica pointed to the bags. "Your mom will not let me help her. You tell her this is for her own good." Matt looked at me. I saw guilt in his eyes, but also resignation. "Mom, Jessica is right. You do not need all these clothes. Let her help you." I sat on my bed and let them do it. What else could I do? If I objected, they called me difficult, stubborn, senile. If I cried, I was too emotional. There was no way to win. They took away 5 bags of my clothes, 5 bags of memories that ended up in some dumpster. But that was just the beginning. The next week, Jessica arrived with a proposal. "Mrs. Catherine, I have an idea. How about you help me with some domestic tasks? It would be a way to stay active. Doctors say older people need activity to avoid depression." "What kind of tasks?" "Well, I am going to start working from here twice a week. I have virtual meetings. If you could wash some dishes, vacuum, make coffee, it would be very helpful. And that way, you do not feel so lonely." That was how I became the maid in my own house. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, Jessica arrived with her laptop. She set herself up in my dining room at my table, surrounded by papers and coffee cups. And I washed her dishes. I cleaned the space she dirtied. I served her water when she snapped her fingers without taking her eyes off the screen. "Mrs. Catherine, can you bring me a pillow for my back? Mrs. Catherine, did you wash the breakfast dishes yet? Mrs. Catherine, I need silence. I have an important call." In my own house, in the dining room where I celebrated my children's birthdays, where I mourned Henry's death, where I spent 1,000 nights sewing clothes to save money there, I was being treated like a servant, and Matt did nothing. The few times he came and saw it, he only said, "It is good that you keep yourself busy, Mom." But the moment that destroyed me arrived one Thursday in February. Jessica was working, as always. I had prepared lentil soup, Matt's favorite food since he was a child. I set the table with my good plates, the ones I had inherited from my grandmother. I served 3 plates. When Jessica finished her call, she sat at the table. I did too. "What are you doing?" she asked, looking at me as if I were a fly in her soup. "I am going to eat," I replied, confused. "No, Mrs. Catherine, I have another meeting in 20 minutes and I need to concentrate. Please eat in the kitchen." The world stopped. "This is my table," I said with a trembling voice. "In my house?" "Yes, but I am working. I need space. Besides, you are already used to eating in the kitchen, right? I have seen you do it many times." She was right. In the last few months when she was here, I ate standing by the stove, nibbling cold bread, hiding in my own kitchen. "Jessica, please." "Mrs. Catherine, do not complicate things. Just do what I ask." I stood up. I took my plate. I walked to the kitchen with my legs shaking. I sat on the stool next to the stove, the one where I sit to peel potatoes. And there, eating my soup with trembling hands, tears falling into the plate, I understood something terrible. I was no longer the owner of this house. I was a burden, a nuisance, an old woman who was left over. That night alone in my bed, I looked at the ceiling and thought of Henry. "Forgive me," I whispered to his photograph. "Forgive me for not protecting what we built together, for letting them erase us." But then I remembered the words my husband told me 3 days before he died, when he already knew he did not have much time left. "Catherine, you are stronger than you think. When I am not here, you are going to have to be. Promise me you will never let anyone take away your dignity." I had promised him, and it was time to fulfill it. Because there is a limit for everything. There is a point where pain transforms into something different, into clarity, into decision, into a cold fire that is not extinguished with tears, but with action. The discovery arrived by accident. Or maybe fate has strange ways of giving you the tools just when you need them most. It was a Tuesday in March. Jessica had arrived early to work. I was in the kitchen making coffee when I heard her phone ringing in the dining room. "Mrs. Catherine, can you answer? If it is the office, tell them I will call in 5 minutes. I am in the bathroom." I took the phone. The screen said, "Roddy." It was not from any office. I hesitated, but something made me answer. "Hello?" "Baby, did you speak to the lawyer yet?" said a man's voice, young, confident. My blood froze. "Who is speaking?" I asked. There was a silence. Then the voice changed, nervous. "Excuse me, I dialed the wrong number." And he hung up. "Baby." He had called Jessica baby. I left the phone where it was my hands shaking. When Jessica came out of the bathroom, I was already back in the kitchen pretending nothing had happened. "Did someone call?" she asked. "No, nobody." I lied. That night I could not sleep. Did Jessica have a lover? Did Matt know? And what was that about the lawyer? The following days, I was more attentive. I watched every movement Jessica made, every call she made walking toward the patio, every message she wrote with a smile on her lips. On Thursday, my opportunity arrived. Jessica was in the bathroom. She had left her purse in the dining room. My heart was beating so fast I could hear it in my ears. I knew it was wrong. I knew I shouldn't. But after months of humiliation, of being treated as invisible, I no longer cared about the rules. I opened the purse. Inside was a blue folder. I took it out with trembling hands. I opened it. And there, on perfectly organized white sheets, was the whole truth. They were legal documents. The first was a draft of a guardianship petition. My full name, Catherine Josephine Harrison, date of birth, address. I read the lines with eyes filling with tears. The alleged incapacitated person presents evident signs of advanced cognitive deterioration, forgets conversations, cannot administer her finances, shows erratic behavior, psychiatric evaluation requested to determine her legal capacity and appoint a guardian. It was all a lie. Every word was a perfect lie. Legal. Designed to strip me of everything. I kept looking. There were more documents, property appraisal, $600,000, quotes from geriatric residences, Sunset Memory Care, $5,000 monthly, St. Rita's Nursing Home, $4,500 monthly. Mathematical calculations handwritten on a sheet. If we sell the house, $600,000, less legal fees, $20,000, less nursing home, 5 years, $300,000, remaining for us $280,000. 5 years. They gave me 5 years to live, and they had already calculated how much it would cost to keep me locked up while they waited for me to die. But the worst was on the last pages. Printed drafts of WhatsApp messages, like evidence or backup. Jessica, I already spoke with the lawyer, Roddy. He says the process can take 6 months if she cooperates, maximum 1 year if she resists. Roddy, and what if Matt backs out, Jessica? He won't. I already have him convinced it is the best thing for his mom. He is weak. He does what I say. Roddy, I love you, my queen. When we have the money, we are going to Cabo together, like we dreamed. Jessica, relax, love. Everything is going according to plan. Matt suspects nothing. He thinks I love him. When they give me the house money, I file for divorce and we leave. He stays with his guilt and we stay with the life we deserve. Tears fell onto the papers, smudging the ink. My daughter-in-law did not just want to rob me. She wanted to erase me. And while she locked me in a home to die alone, she planned to run away with her lover, using the money from the house my husband built with his own hands. And Matt, my son, was just a tool, a useful idiot she manipulated like a puppet. I heard the bathroom water turn off. With shaking hands, I took out my old cell phone, the one Jessica said I should change because it is useless. I photographed every page, every document, every message. I put the folder back exactly as it was and closed the purse just as Jessica came out. Are you okay, Mrs. Catherine? You look pale. I am fine, just a little low blood pressure. You should go to the doctor. At your age, those things are delicate. She smiled at me, that perfect smile she had practiced for 3 years. Yes, maybe I will, I said, returning the smile. That night when she left, I sat on my bed with the phone in my hands. I reviewed the photos again and again. Every word was a knife, but it was also ammunition. Now I knew the full truth. And the truth, although painful, makes you powerful. I called Valerie. It was 11 at night, but she answered on the second ring. Mom, what happened? Honey, I need you to come, and I need you to recommend the best lawyer you know. What happened, Mom? You are scaring me. I took a deep breath. What happened is that I stopped being a victim, and it is time for Jessica to learn that this old woman is not as stupid as she thinks. There was a silence. Then I heard Valerie's voice, firm and full of fury. I am going to destroy her life, Mom, I swear. No, honey, I'm going to do that, but I need your help. You have it. All of it. I hung up and looked at Henry's photo on the nightstand. Almost there, my love. Almost there, recovering our dignity. Because there is something Jessica did not know. Women of my generation survived economic crises. We raised children with almost nothing. We buried husbands, and we kept going. We are not fragile. We are steel-tempered in fire. And when we decide to fight, we do not forgive. Valerie arrived 2 days later. I saw her get out of the Uber with a large suitcase, and I knew she came prepared to stay as long as necessary. My daughter inherited her father's character. Strong, direct, no half measures. When she entered the house, she hugged me so hard I felt all the tears held back from the last few months wanted to come out at once. Oh, Mom, she whispered in my ear. You look so thin. What have they done to you? I did not answer. I just hugged her tighter. That night, sitting at the kitchen table with cups of coffee, I showed her the photographs. I saw her face go from disbelief to pure fury. That evil woman, she muttered through gritted teeth. That snake. Watch your language. I told her out of habit, although deep down I agreed. Mom, this is attempted fraud, financial abuse conspiracy. We can press criminal charges. I do not want scandals, not yet. First, I need to protect the house, protect myself, and then we will see. Valerie nodded. She took out her phone and dialed a number. Mr. Harrison, this is Valerie Henry's daughter. Yes, I need your help with something urgent. It is about my mother. Mr. Harrison had been my husband's lawyer for 30 years, a 72-year-old man, one of those who still believe in honor and keeping one's word. Henry trusted him blindly. The next day, Mr. Harrison arrived at my house with his worn leather briefcase and his bifocals. He sat in my living room reviewing the photographs on his iPad with absolute concentration. When he finished, he took off his glasses and looked at me with sadness. "Catherine, this is serious, very serious. This woman is not just committing fraud, she is planning to steal your life." "I know, but we have advantages. First, you are completely lucid. Any psychiatric evaluation would prove it. Second, we have proof of her plan. Third, we can act before she does." "What do you propose?" Mr. Harrison opened his briefcase and took out documents. "I propose 3 things. First, modify your will immediately. Second, create an irrevocable trust to protect this house. Third, gather more evidence for when the time comes to confront her." "Explain the trust to me." "It is simple. We transfer ownership of the house to a trust where you are the sole beneficiary while you live. You have total control. You can live here, rent it, sell it if you want. But Matt cannot inherit it directly. When you pass away, the trust is distributed however you decide. It can be for your grandkids, for Valerie, for charity, whatever you want, but Jessica will never be able to touch it." I felt as if a weight was lifted from my chest. "And Matt cannot do anything." "Nothing. The house ceases to be part of your direct hereditary estate. Even if they tried the guardianship, which would not succeed, they could not touch the trust." "Let's do it." We spent 3 days preparing everything. Mr. Harrison brought the documents, I signed them. Valerie photographed every page, saved copies in the cloud on her computer, on 3 different USB drives. "In this family, we do not trust anyone anymore," my daughter said with bitter irony. "We also scheduled a private psychiatric evaluation. Dr. Reynolds came to the house, asked me questions for 2 hours, tested my memory, reasoning, orientation. At the end, she smiled. "Mrs. Catherine, you have a mind clearer than many 50-year-olds. I'm going to give you a detailed report that you can use legally if anyone questions your capacity." But the most important part of the plan was missing additional evidence. "Mom, we need to record her," Valerie said. "Not just the documents, we need her voice, her words confessing everything." "How?" My daughter smiled. That smile she inherited from her father when he had a brilliant idea. "Leave it to me." Valerie bought a small recording device the size of a flash drive. We hid it in a vase in the living room, right where Jessica always sat to work. "When she talks on the phone with her lover, we will record everything," Valerie explained. "And when the perfect moment arrives, we will confront her." "When will that moment be?" Valerie looked at me with determination. "When she feels safest, when she thinks she has already won. That is when predators lower their guard." Over the next 2 weeks, we recorded everything. Every conversation Jessica had with Roddy. Every derogatory comment about me when she thought I was not listening. Every cruel laugh. "Almost there, baby. The lawyer says in 2 months we can file the petition. And if the old lady resists, it doesn't matter. I have Matt eating out of my hand. He will sign whatever I put in front of him." We also discovered more things. Jessica had taken out credit cards in Matt's name without him knowing. She owed $15,000. She had forged my son's signature on documents. She was not just a manipulator, she was a criminal. One afternoon, while Jessica was working in my dining room, Valerie and I were in the kitchen, listening to the live recording through her phone. We heard her talk to Roddy. "I am tired of pretending, baby. Tired of smiling at the old hag, of putting up with Matt. But it is worth it. $600,000 is worth any sacrifice." Valerie squeezed my hand. I squeezed hers back. "Soon, Mom," she whispered. "Very soon." That night, after Jessica left, I sat down with Valerie and Mr. Harrison. All the documents were on the table. The signed trust, the modified will, the recordings, the photographs, the psychiatric report, the fraudulent credit card statements. "Everything is ready," said Mr. Harrison. "Now only the moment is missing." "Which moment?" I asked. Valerie smiled, a smile that gave me chills and hope at the same time. "Her birthday number, your birthday, Mom, April 15th, 3 weeks away. We are going to organize a dinner. We will invite Matt, Jessica, Aunt Lucy, some neighbors, and there in front of everyone we are going to reveal who your daughter-in-law really is. Isn't that very cruel? Cruel. Valerie leaned toward me. Mom, she planned to lock you in a nursing home and steal the house Dad built. Cruel is an understatement. This is justice. Mr. Harrison cleared his throat. Catherine, we can also do it in private if you prefer. Less drama, less pain. I thought of all the moments of humiliation, eating in the kitchen of my own house, seeing my memories thrown in the trash, hearing my son say I was no longer his priority. No, I said with a firm voice. Let it be public. Let everyone see what she did. Let Matt see who he married. Let Jessica's mother see what kind of daughter she raised. Valerie smiled. Mr. Harrison nodded. Then get ready, said the lawyer, because this is going to be memorable. And boy, was it ever. Because there are moments in life where you stop being the prey and become the hunter, where silence breaks and the truth explodes like fire. And I was ready to burn everything false until only ash remained. April 15th dawned with a clear sky. Ironic, I thought, because what was coming was a storm. Jessica had insisted on helping me with my birthday, but this time I had accepted with a smile. She thought she was finally breaking me. She did not know she was walking straight into her own trap. Mrs. Catherine let me organize everything. You just relax and enjoy your day, she had said the week before. Thank you, Jessica. You are so good to me. The words tasted like poison in my mouth, but I said them with sweetness. Valerie had officially returned to Texas, but in reality she was staying at my sister Lucy's house just 10 minutes away. The plan was for her to arrive as a surprise for my birthday. On the morning of the 15th, I got up at 5 as always. I prepared the pot roast, the lasagna, the iced tea, everything exactly as I would for any celebration. Jessica would arrive at 2 to supervise and add her modern touches. But this time, what she did not know is that every detail was calculated. Mr. Harrison had installed discreet cameras in the living room, small, invisible, streaming live to his phone. Valerie had access too. We wanted to record everything that would happen that night. At 2 o'clock sharp, Jessica arrived with Matt. She brought silver metallic balloons that said 69 in giant numbers. Matt carried a box with a cake. "Happy birthday, Mom," said my son, kissing my forehead. For a second, I forgot everything. He was my baby. But then I saw Jessica behind him with that calculating smile, and I remembered. Thank you, son. Jessica started reorganizing the living room. She removed my flowers and put hers. She changed the tablecloths. She moved the chairs. Every gesture was a declaration. This is mine, not yours. I let her do it. I smiled, I nodded, I thanked her. Oh, Mrs. Catherine, you look so nice today. Is that a new dress? No, it is 10 years old, but I take good care of it, so it looks lovely. Lies wrapped in honey. The guests started arriving at 6. My sister Lucy with her husband. The next-door neighbors, Mr. Raymond and Mrs. Ophelia, who had known me since I moved here. Jessica's friends, 5 elegant women who looked at me with condescending pity. Jessica's mother, Stella, with her pearl necklace and her air of superiority. And finally, at 6:30, Valerie arrived. "Surprise, Mom!" she shouted from the door. I ran to hug her, and this time the tears I shed were real. My daughter, my support, my strength. I saw Jessica turn pale. I did not expect Valerie to be here. She exchanged a nervous glance with Matt. "What a surprise sister-in-law," Jessica said with a tense voice. "We did not know you were coming." "Well, of course I am here," Valerie replied. "It is my mother's birthday. Where else would I be?" The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. We sat down for dinner. Jessica had insisted on arranging the seating chart. She was at the head of the table with Matt by her side and her mother at the other end. And me, I was relegated to the side near the kitchen, exactly where she wanted me. I served the pot roast. I passed the dinner rolls. Jessica was receiving all the compliments for organizing such a lovely dinner. I was invisible, again, until I tried to sit in an empty chair that remained at the main table. "That seat is for my mother," Jessica shouted with a voice so loud that everyone stopped talking. "You sit over there next to the kitchen just in case we need anything served." The silence was absolute. Jessica's friends looked away uncomfortable. The neighbors widened their eyes in surprise. Lucy stood up from her chair furious, but Valerie put a hand on her arm. "Wait," my daughter whispered. Matt had his mouth open but said nothing, as always. I stood there holding my plate, feeling 20 pairs of eyes pinned on me, and then something inside me clicked. There was no more fear, only clarity. I stood up slowly, very slowly. I placed the plate on the table gently. I walked toward the stereo where the cheerful music Jessica had put on was playing. I turned it off. The silence became heavy, dense. Then I walked to the kitchen. I turned the knob on the stove and shut off the gas. The fire died with a whisper. The pot stopped bubbling. I returned to the living room. Everyone looked at me as if I had gone crazy. I smiled, a quiet, serene smile. "I want to thank everyone for coming to celebrate in my house," I said with a clear voice. "Yes, my house. Because although my daughter-in-law seems to constantly forget it, this property is in my name. Every brick, every window, every corner of this place was built by my husband Henry and me 40 years ago." Jessica stood up. "Mrs. Miller, what are you doing?" "We are in the middle of a dinner." "Sit down, Jessica," I said firmly. "I am not finished yet." Something in my tone made her obey. She sat down, pale. Valerie stood up and brought over a laptop. She connected it to the television in the living room. Mr. Harrison appeared from the kitchen where he had been waiting in silence. "You see," I continued, "I have been very foolish these last few months, very naive. I let them treat me like a servant in my own home. I let them throw my memories into the trash. I let them make me feel like a burden." "Mom, what are you talking about?" Matt asked, confused. "I am talking about this." Valerie pressed a key. On the television screen, photographs of documents appeared: the guardianship application, the quotes from nursing homes, the calculations of how much money would be left after locking me away. The murmurs exploded. Jessica's friends covered their mouths. Mr. Raymond shook his head in disbelief. Stella, Jessica's mother, had turned as white as a sheet of paper. "What is this?" Matt shouted, standing up abruptly. "Jessica, I did not. That is, it is taken out of context," my daughter-in-law stammered, searching for words. "Context," I said with a cold voice. "What context do you need for 'the old hag will not last much longer,' or 'when we get the money from the house'?" Valerie changed to the next image, the messages with Brad. Jessica stood up as if she had been electrocuted. "Turn that off. You have no right." "I have every right. It is my house, my birthday, and my truth." The messages were projected one after another on the giant screen. Each word was a hammer blow, each phrase a sentence. "Matt is weak. He does what I say." "When I get the money, I am filing for divorce." "I love you, Brad. Soon we will be in Miami." Matt read with his mouth open, his hands trembling. Tears ran down his face. "No, it cannot be," he whispered. "Oh, but there is more," Valerie said with a cutting voice. "This is the history of the credit cards you took out in my brother's name without his consent. $25,000 in debt, documents signed with his forged signature." Mr. Harrison stepped forward. "Which constitutes bank fraud, document forgery, and marriage for interest with the intention to defraud, all criminally punishable." Jessica looked for the exit with her eyes, but Valerie was blocking the front door, and Lucy was blocking the kitchen. "Sit down, Jessica," I repeated. "If you try to leave, Mr. Harrison has contacts at the district attorney's office. You can leave here in handcuffs or with dignity. You choose." She let herself fall into the chair, defeated. Her mother stood up with fury. "This is a trap, a conspiracy against my daughter." "No, Stella," Lucy said with venom in her voice. "This is justice. Your daughter tried to steal my sister's life and almost succeeded." The guests began to take out their phones. Some were recording, others were sending messages. In less than 10 minutes, the entire neighborhood would know the truth. Jessica was crying now, with her hands covering her face, but I felt no pity, only a cold void where maternal love used to be. I looked at Matt. My son was destroyed, staring fixedly at the woman he had married, as if she were a stranger. "Matt," I said softly, "I gave you life. I raised you. I loved you, and you chose this woman over me. But do you know what? It does not matter anymore." I walked over to him and put my hand on his wet cheek, because I also chose. I chose my dignity over your love, and I do not regret it. Revenge. I discovered that night is not a dish best served cold. It is a mirror that you force others to look into, and sometimes the image they see destroys them more than any punishment. Jessica cried with her head between her hands, but I knew they were not tears of regret. They were tears of rage, of frustration at having been caught. I knew her too well by now. Matt remained standing, looking at the images on the screen as if he were watching his own life crumble. And in a way he was. "Mom." His voice was barely a broken whisper. "I did not know. About the lover, the cards. I thought she really cared about you, that the nursing home was for your own good." "For my own good?" I interrupted him, and my voice sounded harder than I intended. "Matt, your wife calculated how many years I had left to live. 5. She gave me 5 years. Does that seem like concern to you?" He could not answer. Valerie changed the image on the screen. "But wait, because this is just beginning," my daughter said with a cold smile. "Mom, do you want to tell them, or should I?" I looked at her and nodded. It was time to drop the last bomb. "Go ahead, my daughter." Valerie connected an audio cable to the television. Everyone in the living room was completely silent. Even Jessica's friends, who previously defended her with their eyes, had now moved away from her as if she had a contagious disease. "What you are about to hear," Valerie explained, "are recordings of phone conversations that Jessica had in this house during the last 2 weeks. All recorded legally since it occurred on my mother's private property, with her consent." She pressed play. Jessica's voice filled the room, clear, confident, without the sweet tone she used with me. "Almost there, my love. The lawyer says that in 2 months we can file the guardianship application. He knows a psychiatrist who will sign the report we need for $5,000. Brad's voice responded, "And if the old lady resists, I have heard those processes can take years." "It does not matter. I have a plan B. I can put medication in her food, things that make her look confused, forgetful. With testimonies from neighbors and a couple of well-staged scenes, any judge will declare her incompetent." My stomach turned upon hearing those words. I thought about all the times I had felt dizzy after eating what Jessica prepared, about the times I forgot simple things and wondered if I was really losing my memory. She was poisoning me slowly. "That is a lie," Jessica shouted, jumping to her feet. "They edited that recording. That is not my voice." "Oh, really?" Valerie smiled. "Mr. Harrison, could you explain to the lady about the authenticity of the recordings?" The lawyer adjusted his glasses. "The recordings were analyzed by a forensic audio expert. He confirmed there is no editing, that the voice is authentic." "I have the notarized report right here. We also identified the number this Brad character was calling from. It is already traced. He lives in Miami as mentioned in the messages. He is 28 years old and has a criminal record for fraud." Jessica looked for support from her mother, but Stella was sitting with her face between her hands, ashamed. The recording continued. "And Matt, does he not suspect anything?" "Not at all. He is so predictable. I tell him his mom is losing her mind, and he believes me. I tell him we need this house, and he convinces himself it is for our future. He is weak, Brad. He always has been. His dad died when he was still young, so he never had a strong figure to teach him character. He is perfect to manipulate. Matt let himself fall into the nearest chair. He had lost all color in his face. One of Jessica's friends stood up without saying a word and left the house. Then another, and another. In less than 2 minutes, all of Jessica's friends were gone. Only the neighbors, my family Stella and Matt, remained. "There is more," Valerie said, relentless. Another recording. This time Jessica was talking to someone else, an older woman's voice. "Mrs. Mendez, I appreciate you agreeing to testify if needed. You just have to say you saw Mrs. Miller confused, talking to herself, forgetting to close the door. I will pay you $3,000 for your testimony. And if they ask me a lot in court, do not worry. The lawyer will prepare everything. You just confirm what we already discussed." Mr. Raymond stood up furious. "That is Alma Mendez, the one who lives 3 houses down." He turned toward me. "Camilla, 2 weeks ago, she asked me if I had seen you acting strange lately. I told her you were perfectly fine. Now I understand why she was asking." Jessica was no longer crying. She was motionless like a statue of ice, knowing that every second that passed sank her deeper. "I would like to clarify something," Mr. Harrison said, taking a step forward. "Mrs. Miller submitted voluntarily to a complete psychiatric evaluation 3 weeks ago. The results show she has full mental faculties. There is no cognitive deterioration, no confusion. In fact, her memory and reasoning capacity are above average for her age." He took out a folder with official documents and placed them on the table. Any attempt to declare her incompetent would have been dismissed immediately. But the emotional damage and the time wasted in court, that was part of the plan, right, Jessica? Keeping her busy with legal processes, spending money on lawyers while you continued manipulating Matt. Jessica finally spoke with a voice full of venom I had never heard from her. "And so what if it was this old woman has more than she needs? A huge house for herself alone, money saved up. For what, to die and let everything rot? At least I was going to put those resources to use." The brazenness left me speechless. "Resources," I repeated slowly. "That is what you call the house I built with my husband. Resources. Call it whatever you want. The reality is that you are in the way. Matt is too weak to tell you, but I am not. You are in the way of your own life, clinging to the past, to memories, to old things that do not matter anymore. I was only trying to liberate you from that." "Liberate me." I walked closer to her, and for the first time in my life, I felt pure hatred. "Liberate me by locking me in a nursing home, by poisoning me so I would seem senile, by stealing the house my husband built with his hands. Your husband is dead." Jessica spat, "And you should be too." The silence that followed was so deep I could hear my own heart beating. Matt stood up slowly, walked toward Jessica, and for the first time in 3 years, I saw fury in my son's eyes. "Get out of this house," he said with a voice trembling with contained rage. "Now." "Matt, I only—" "Now," he shouted with a force I had never known in him. "Get out of this house before I call the police myself." Jessica looked at him with pure hatred. Then she looked at me. In her eyes there was no regret, only fury for having lost. "This does not end here," she said in a low and threatening voice. Valerie took a step forward. "Oh yes, Jessica, it ends here, because we have copies of all of this in 4 different places. If you try anything at all against my mother or my brother, this goes to the district attorney in less than an hour. And believe me, with this evidence, you would spend years in prison." Mr. Harrison added, "I also prepared a restraining order. If you come within 500 feet of this property, or Mrs. Miller, you go straight to jail." "Understood." Jessica grabbed her purse. Her mother Stella followed her in silence with her head bowed. Before leaving, Jessica turned around one last time. "You are going to regret this, old woman. You are going to die alone and forgotten." I smiled. a quiet, serene smile. I prefer to die alone and with dignity than surrounded by vipers like you. The door closed behind her, and for the first time in 3 years I could breathe in my own house. Because the greatest victory is not destroying your enemy, it is recovering what they took from you, your voice, your space, your power. And I had just recovered all 3. When the door closed behind Jessica, the house was left in a heavy silence. The neighbors said goodbye in low voices with sincere hugs and looks of support. Mr. Raymond squeezed my hand before leaving. "Camilla, if you need anything, anything at all, we are 3 houses down." "Thank you, Raymond." Lucy came over and hugged me tight. "Sister, I am so proud of you. Henry would be proud." I nodded, unable to speak. If I spoke, I would cry, and I did not want to cry just yet. When everyone was gone, only Valerie, Mr. Harrison, Matt, and I remained. My son was sitting on the green sofa that Jessica hated so much with his head between his hands. His body was shaking. I do not know if it was from rage, shame, or pain. Probably all 3. Valerie sat beside him. She put a hand on his shoulder. "Matt." "No," he said with a broken voice. "Do not say anything. There is nothing to say." "There is a lot to say," my daughter responded firmly but without cruelty. "It can wait, mister." Harrison cleared his throat. "Camilla, Matt, we need to talk about the legal aspects, the divorce, the debts, the restraining order." "Mr. Harrison," I said softly, "could you come back tomorrow? I think tonight we need to process everything first." The lawyer nodded with understanding. "Of course. I will leave you as a family. Call me for anything." He came over and kissed my forehead like my father used to do. "You did the right thing, Camilla. Henry would be very proud." When he left, the 3 of us remained, my true family, broken but real. Matt finally lifted his head. His eyes were red, swollen. He looked like he had aged 10 years in one night. "Mom, His voice broke. "I do not even know where to start." I sat in front of him. Valerie moved to the armchair, giving us space. "Start at the beginning," I said gently. "I am sorry." Tears ran freely down his face. "I am so sorry. I was a coward, an idiot." "An idiot," I said simply. "You were." He shrank back as if I had hit him, but I continued. "You were also manipulated. Jessica was very good at what she did. That is no excuse." He wiped his face with rage. "I saw how she treated you. I saw how you changed, how you became smaller every day, and I did nothing. I chose to believe her instead of trusting my gut." "Why?" Valerie asked. Her voice was not accusatory, just genuinely curious. "Why did you choose to believe her?" Matt took a deep breath, searching for words. "Because she made me feel important. After Dad died, I felt lost. Like I had to be the man of the house, but I did not know how. Jessica arrived and made me feel strong, capable, like I could be someone. And when she told me Mom was being difficult, that she needed help, that I was doing the right thing, I wanted to believe her. Because the alternative was accepting that I was failing everyone." "Matt," I said, feeling my heart break, "your father never expected you to be the man of the house. He only expected you to be a good person." He crumbled, completely. He fell to his knees in front of me, sobbing like when he was a child, and hurt himself playing. "Forgive me, Mom. Please forgive me. I let her humiliate you. I let her plan to lock you away. I let her make you feel invisible in your own home. How can you even look at me?" I hugged him. Not because everything was okay, not because the pain disappeared, but because he was my son, and despite everything, he was still my son. "Matt, I am not going to lie to you. It hurt. It hurt more than I can explain. Feeling like my own son had abandoned me. I know, and I will never be able to make up for it." I took his face, forcing him to look at me. "I do not expect you to make up for it, but I do expect you to learn. That you never again allow anyone to make you betray the people you love. I promise you." His hands trembled holding mine. "I swear on Dad's memory that it will never happen again." Valerie joined the hug. The three of us cried together, releasing years of pain, betrayal, and silence. After a long while, we separated. Valerie brought tissues. We cleaned our faces as best we could. "Matt," I said, "Mr. Harrison explained that you have debts of $25,000 for the cards Jessica took out in your name." He nodded miserably. "I am going to help you," I continued. "I am not going to pay everything because you need to learn responsibility, but I will pay half if you pay the other half working a second job or whatever is necessary." "Understood." "Mom, you do not have to." "Yes, I do have to because you are my son and I am not going to let a bad decision ruin your life. But I am not going to solve everything for you either." "Thank you." His voice was barely a whisper. "I do not deserve your help." "Probably not," I said with a small smile. "But that is a mother's love, unconditional and irrational." Valerie poured us coffee. We sat at the kitchen table where so many important conversations had happened over the years. "So what is next?" my daughter asked. "Matt needs to divorce as soon as possible," I said. "Mr. Harrison can handle that. Jessica will want money, I am sure." "Let her try," Valerie growled. "With all the evidence we have, she will not see a single dime." "I do not want to see her ever again," Matt said firmly. "I do not want her money back. I do not want explanations. I do not want anything. I just want her to disappear from my life." "She will," I assured him. "The restraining order takes care of that." We stayed silent for a few minutes, processing everything. Finally, Matt spoke. "Mom, I know I cannot live here again, not after everything, but can I visit you? Can we try to rebuild this?" I looked him in the eyes. I saw genuine regret. I saw my son, not the manipulated man he had been. "Yes," I said, "little by little with time, but yes." He wiped his tears again. "I do not deserve you." "Maybe not, but you have me anyway. Because forgiving does not mean forgetting. It means choosing love over resentment, family over pride. But that forgiveness has conditions, it has limits, and this time I will set those limits very clearly." The next morning arrived with a strange clarity. I slept deeply for the first time in months. When I woke up, Valerie was already in the kitchen making coffee. "Good morning, Mom. How do you feel?" "Free." I responded with honesty. "For the first time in 3 years, I feel free." We ate breakfast peacefully. Scrambled eggs, hash browns, warm biscuits. Simple food that tasted like glory after so much time eating, with a stomach closed by anxiety. At 10 o'clock, Mr. Harrison arrived with a briefcase full of documents. Matt came half an hour later with deep dark circles under his eyes, but a determined look. We sat in the living room. The lawyer spread the papers on the coffee table. "Good. Let's go step by step. First, the divorce." "Matt, with the evidence we have, we can process an expedited divorce on grounds of deception, fraud, and emotional bigamy. You do not need to give her anything." "How long will it take?" Matt asked. "With a cooperative judge and the proof we have, maximum 3 months. Jessica can fight, but she will lose. Her lawyers will know that and will advise her to sign." "Perfect." "Second," Mr. Harrison continued, "the credit cards. We have proof of signature forgery. Matt can file criminal charges and the banks will cancel the debts. However, I asked, "if Matt files criminal charges, Jessica will go to prison, probably 3 to 5 years." Silence filled the room. I looked at my son. He was looking at his hands. "Do I want her to go to prison?" he murmured more to himself than to us. Part of me wants to see her suffer, like she made me suffer, like she made Mom suffer. "Matt," I said softly, "this decision is yours. No one will judge you for what you choose." "But Mom, she planned to poison you, lock you in a home, steal your house. Does she not deserve to pay for that?" I thought carefully before answering. She deserves consequences, yes, but prison. Son, you have to be able to live with your decision. Ask yourself, will sending her to jail give you peace or just more bitterness? Matt closed his eyes. He took several deep breaths. I do not want to be like her, he said finally. I do not want to be cruel, but I do not want her to get away with it either. There is a middle ground, Mr. Harrison suggested. We can pressure her to sign the divorce on very favorable terms, have her assume full responsibility for the debts, and renounce any future claims. If she complies, we do not press charges. If she does not comply or bothers you again, then everything goes to the district attorney. That, Matt said with relief. That sounds fair. Okay, I will contact her today. We spent the next 2 hours reviewing documents. The trust for the house was perfect. My updated will protected my grandchildren. Everything was in order. At 2 in the afternoon, Mr. Harrison's phone rang. It is her, he said. He put it on speaker. Attorney Harrison. Jessica's voice sounded tired, defeated. Ms. Jessica, I am speaking on behalf of Matt Miller. We have a proposal. I am listening. Mr. Harrison explained the terms. Immediate divorce. You assume all debts. Renounce any financial compensation. Permanent restraining order. And if I accept, Jessica asked after a long silence, we do not press criminal charges for fraud, forgery, or attempted dispossession. You have my word. And is the old woman in agreement? Mrs. Miller, Mr. Harrison corrected with emphasis, is present here. And yes, she agrees. Another silence. I need 48 hours to think about it. You have 24. After that, the charges go straight to the district attorney. That is blackmail. No, ma'am, it is justice. It is your decision. Jessica hung up without saying goodbye. Valerie shook her head, until the end without a shred of decency. The next day at 11 in the morning, Jessica arrived accompanied by a young and nervous lawyer. She did not enter the house. Mr. Harrison went out to the street with the documents. From the window, I saw them arguing for 20 minutes. Jessica gestured, shouted. Her lawyer seemed to be trying to calm her down. Finally, with trembling hands, she signed. Mr. Harrison returned with the signed and notarized papers. It is done. Legally, it is over. Matt took the documents and looked at them as if he could not believe they were real. It is over, he whispered. It is really over. But I knew something was missing. Jessica had signed yes, but she had not really paid for the emotional damage. For the nights I cried for the dignity she tried to take from me. Mr. Harrison, I said, can I ask you for one last favor? Of course, Camilla. I want you to give something to Jessica. I went up to my room. From the closet, I took out a small box. Inside was $1,000 in cash. I also included a note I had written that morning. I went down and gave the box to Mr. Harrison. What is this? He asked, confused. Give this to Jessica. Tell her it is so she cannot say I left her on the street, that it is more than she deserves, but less than what it will cost her to live with her conscience. Mr. Harrison smiled, a smile of pure admiration. You are incredible, Camilla. He went out and handed her the box. I saw Jessica's face from the window. She opened the box. She read the note. Her face fell apart, not from sadness, from impotent rage. Because I had given her money. I had shown her mercy. And that was worse than any revenge. It proved to her that I was a better person than she was, that I had won not by being cruel, but by keeping my dignity until the end. Jessica took the box and left without looking back. I never saw her again. Because true victory lies not in destroying your enemy. It lies in demonstrating that their malice did not change you, that you remained who you were despite the poison, and that, in the end, light always wins over darkness. The first few days after Jessica left were strange. The house felt different, as if it had been exorcised. Valerie stayed 2 more weeks before returning to Chicago. Mom, "Are you sure you will be okay alone?" she asked the morning of her departure. "More than okay, honey. For the first time in years, this house is mine again." I hugged her at the door, watching her get into the taxi. When she left, I closed the door and stood in the hallway. Silence, peace, mine. I walked through every room, reclaiming my space. I took out the picture of the Virgin Mary that Jessica had put away and hung it back up in the living room. I returned my embroidered cushions to the sofa. I put the photos of Henry and the children in every corner. The house was breathing again. Matt did not appear for a week. I understood he needed time to process, to heal. When he finally called, his voice sounded different, more mature. "Mom, can I come over tomorrow just to visit? I will not stay long, I need to see you." "Of course, son." He arrived the next day with a bouquet of white carnations, my favorites. Not expensive red roses, not ostentatious arrangements. Simple white carnations that reminded me of the ones Henry brought me every Friday. "I did not know what to bring," he said timidly at the door. "They are perfect." I made coffee and sweet bread. We sat in the kitchen, not in the living room, the place where the important conversations had always happened. "Mom, I moved into a small apartment in the city. It is different, but it is mine. No memories of her." "I am glad, son. I also started therapy, twice a week. The therapist says I have codependency issues, and..." He laughed bitterly. "Low self-esteem. Imagine that. 37 years old, and I'm just discovering I do not know who I am without someone telling me what to do." "Matt, we all have things to work on. The important thing is that you are doing it." "Can I ask you something? Anything? How did you manage to forgive me? Because I still cannot forgive myself." I left my cup on the table. I thought carefully. "I have not completely forgiven you yet," I said honestly, "and maybe I never will entirely. But I love you, and I chose love over resentment. That does not mean the pain disappeared. It means I decided not to let that pain turn me into a bitter person." His eyes filled with tears. "I do not deserve that love. No one deserves love. It is given or it is not given. And I choose to give it to you, but this time with clear limits." "What limits?" "That you never again allow someone to disrespect me. That you include me in your important decisions, not to ask for permission, but out of respect. That if you ever have a partner again, she understands from the beginning that I am your mother, and I deserve consideration. I promise you." He took my hand. "Mom, I am going to spend the rest of my life proving to you that I can be better. I do not need the rest of your life, Matt. I just need you to be honest with me. That is all." The visits became regular. On Sundays, Matt came to eat. I made pot roast or lasagna his favorites. We talked about his job, his therapy, his life. Little by little, I got to know the man he was becoming, one who was more conscious, stronger. A month later, he brought someone. "Mom, I want to introduce you to Patricia." She was a woman of about 35 with short brown hair and glasses. She dressed simply jeans and a white blouse. She brought a Tupperware container. "Mrs. Miller, it is an honor to meet you. Matt has told me so much about you." She extended the container. "I made oatmeal cookies. I hope you like them." They were not expensive flowers. They were not perfect words. They were homemade cookies, made with her own hands. "Thank you, Patricia. Come in, please." During the meal, Patricia asked me about my life, about Henry, about how we met, about building the house. She listened genuinely. She asked intelligent questions. When I told her about my garden, she got excited. "Could you show it to me? I love plants, but I have never known how to take care of them well." We spent an hour in the garden. I showed her my hydrangeas, my rose bushes, the aromatic herbs. Patricia took notes on her phone. She asked questions. She got her hands dirty, touching the soil. When they left, Matt stayed a moment at the door. "What did you think?" "She seems genuine, humble, real." She is. She is an elementary school teacher. She earns little, but she loves what she does. She does not care about my money or my house or anything material, just me. Do you love her? It is still too early to know, but I like how she makes me feel. Calm, like I can breathe. Then give it time, no rush. And if one day it becomes serious, I would like to get to know her better. Count on it, Mom. Months passed. Summer arrived with its hot afternoons. I started replanting the garden with Lucy. I invited the neighbors for coffee. I resumed my knitting classes that I had abandoned when Jessica started controlling my time. One afternoon in July, while I was watering the plants, my phone rang. An unknown number. Hello, Mrs. Miller. It was a young woman's voice, nervous. Yes, who is speaking? My name is Andrea. I was Jessica's friend. My stomach tensed. What do you want? I just needed to tell you something. Jessica called me a few days ago. She is in Miami with that Brad guy, but he already left her. She ran out of money and he kicked her out. Now she is working in a restaurant washing dishes. I felt no satisfaction, only a sad emptiness. Why are you telling me this? Because you were right. Everything you said that night at your birthday was true. Jessica used me too. She asked to borrow money, never paid me back. And when I confronted her, she blocked me. I just wanted you to know that not all of us were like her. Some of us did realize too late who she really was. Thank you for calling, Andrea. Did you forgive him, your son, Matt? I am in the process. How lucky he is. Jessica will never have that. No one is going to forgive her. Her own mother stopped talking to her. We hung up. I stood in the garden with the hose in my hand, thinking. Jessica had lost everything, and I had recovered everything that mattered. Because true wealth was never in the house or the money. It was in being able to sleep in peace and feeling like the owner of your own life, and having family who loves you, not who uses you, and that no one could take away from me ever again. A full year had passed since that birthday night that changed everything. It was April again, and the air smelled of fresh flowers. I was in the kitchen preparing lunch when the doorbell rang. I looked at the clock, 11 in the morning. I was not expecting anyone. I opened the door and found Matt with a nervous smile. Hi, Mom. Do you have time? I always have time for you, my son. Come in. He entered but stayed standing in the living room with his hands in his pockets like when he was a teenager and had something important to say. What is it, Matt? You are making me nervous. Mom Patricia and I have been dating for 10 months, officially, and I want to ask her to marry me. My heart skipped a beat. After everything we had lived through, the word marriage gave me chills. Sit down, son, let's talk. We sat down. Matt looked different from the man who had been married to Jessica. He had light in his eyes, peace on his face. I know what you were thinking, he said. After Jessica, how can I trust my judgment again? But Mom Patricia is different, completely different. Tell me. She has spent a year getting to know you, not because I forced her, but because she wanted to. She asks about you every week. When you went to the hospital for your checkup, she offered to go with you without me saying anything. When you turned 69 2 weeks ago, she reminded me 3 times not to forget to call you. It was true. Patricia had been present in small but constant ways. She sent me photos of her students, invited me to her school plays, asked me for advice on recipes. Do you love her? I asked directly. Yes, but not like I loved Jessica. With Jessica, it was obsession, need, fear of being alone. With Patricia, it is tranquility. It is being able to be myself without masks. It is knowing that if I lose my job tomorrow, she will still be there. Not for my money, but for me. And what does she say? I have not proposed yet because first I needed your blessing. Not your permission, Mom. Your blessing. There is a difference. I felt my eyes filling with tears. A year ago, I would have said yes to anything just to make you happy. I would have ignored all the red flags. But now I ask you honestly, does Patricia make you happy? Does she respect you? Does she respect your family? To all 3 questions, yes? Then you have my blessing. Matt hugged me tight. Thank you, Mom. And there is something else. When I propose, I want to do it here in this house in your garden where Dad planted the flowers. Would you let me? This house is yours too, Matt. It always has been. No, Mom. It stopped being so when I allowed Jessica to disrespect you here, but I would like it to be a place of good memories again, of new beginnings. 2 weeks later, we organized a family dinner. Just us. Valerie with Daniel and the grandkids, Lucy with her husband Matt, Patricia, and me. I had put lights in the garden. Patricia thought it was a simple family dinner. She did not know what was coming. After dessert, Matt stood up. Patricia, there is something I want to tell you. She looked at him confused. Matt took her hand and led her to the garden. We all followed. A year ago, I was in the worst moment of my life. I had lost everything. My marriage, my dignity. I almost lost my family. And then you arrived. Patricia had her hands over her mouth, her eyes huge. You did not arrive with grand promises or expensive gifts. You arrived with homemade cookies and sincere questions. You taught me that love is not possession or control. It is respect. It is peace. It is wanting the best for the other person even when that does not benefit you directly. He knelt down. He took out a small box. Patricia, would you do me the honor of marrying me? I do not promise you perfection, but I promise you honesty. I do not promise you wealth, but I promise you hard work. And I promise you that my family, especially my mother, will always have the place she deserves in our life. Patricia was crying. I was crying. Valerie was crying. Even my grandchildren were excited. Yes, Patricia whispered 1,000 times yes. They kissed under the flowers Henry had planted 40 years ago, and in that moment I felt the circle closing, that the house was becoming a place of love, again, not pain. Later, when everyone was celebrating inside, Patricia came up to me. Mrs. Miller, I know you have suffered a lot. Matt told me everything, and I want you to know that I am never, never going to disrespect you. You built this family. I only ask permission to be part of it. I hugged her tight. You do not need permission, honey. You are already part of it. That night, when everyone left, I stayed alone in the garden. I looked at the stars and spoke to Henry like I did sometimes. We did it, old man. They almost beat us, but in the end we won. The house is still standing, Matt learned, and this time he will choose well. The wind blew softly, moving the flowers, and I swear I felt Henry smile. Because second chances exist not to erase the past, but to build a better future with the lessons learned. And this time, my family knew exactly what to protect and what never to allow again. 2 years after that night that changed everything, I find myself sitting in my garden watching my grandchildren play. Sophia is 11 years old now. Mateo is 9. They run chasing butterflies while Patricia teaches them the names of the plants. Matt is inside making lemonade. I hear his laughter from here, genuine and light. So different from that broken man who cried in my arms 2 years ago. Patricia turned out to be exactly who she seemed. Authentic, kind, real. They got married a year ago in a simple ceremony in the garden of this house. Nothing ostentatious, just close family and true friends. She wore a simple white dress that cost her $200. She did not care. Mrs. Miller, she told me that morning while I helped her do her hair, thank you for giving Matt another chance, and thank you for giving me one too. You never needed a chance, honey. You arrived being who you were. That is all I ever asked for. Now they live in their own apartment, but they come every Sunday. Patricia helps me in the garden, Matt fixes whatever breaks. But it is no longer obligation or manipulation. It is simple and true love. Valerie is still in Chicago, but we talk every day. Last month she visited me with news. She is pregnant again. It will be a girl. She wants to call her Camilla. So she never forgets her grandmother's strength. She told me with tears in her eyes. My sister Lucy comes every Thursday. We drink coffee, knit gossip about the neighbors, simple things that remind me that happiness does not need to be complicated. I heard little else about Jessica after that call from Andrea. I heard through third parties that she is still in Miami, that she changed jobs several times, that her family did not forgive her. A small part of me felt pity, a very small part, because she chose her path. She chose lies over truth, greed over love, manipulation over honesty, and those choices have consequences that no money can erase. Matt never mentioned her name again. Neither did I. Some people do not deserve space in your memory. 3 months ago, I received a letter from the bank. Checking my account statements, I found that someone had deposited $5,000 into my account. The sender was anonymous, but I knew. I called Matt. "Son, did you deposit money into my account?" There was a silence. "It was Jessica's debt to you, Mom. The money she asked to borrow and never paid back. It took me 2 years, but I gathered it, with interest." "Matt, you did not have to." "Yes, I did, because although she asked for it, I allowed her to use you. That debt was mine too. I used that money to remodel the kitchen, not because I needed to, but because I wanted every corner of this house to have only good new memories. This afternoon, as I see my family gathered, I think about everything that happened. The pain, the betrayal, the humiliation, but also the strength. I found the lessons I learned, the dignity I recovered." Patricia approaches with a cup of tea. "What are you thinking about, Mom?" I smile at her. 6 months ago, she started calling me that with genuine affection. I am thinking that it was worth it. All the pain was worth it to get here. You would not change anything. I think about it honestly. I would change having trusted so much in the beginning. I would have set boundaries from day one, but the rest, no, because the rest taught me who I really am, and it taught Matt who he wants to be. Matt comes out with the lemonade kisses. Patricia on the forehead, smiles at me. A complete man, not the puppet he was. "Do you know what day it is today?" I ask suddenly. "What day, Grandma?" Sophia asks. "Exactly 2 years ago, I kicked everyone out of my house on my birthday, the worst and best day of my life." "Why the best?" Mateo asks. "Because that day I stopped being a victim and became the owner of my own life again." Matt raises his glass. "To Mom, to the strongest woman I know." Everyone toasts. Patricia Valerie, who is on video, call the grandkids, Lucy, and me, Camilla Josephine Miller, 71 years old, owner of this house, and my destiny I toast too. To the dignity that no one can take from you unless you allow it. To the second chances we build with our own hands. To knowing when to forgive and when to let go. And to understanding finally that the true victory is not destroying those who hurt you, it is remaining who you are, despite them. I look at the imaginary camera as if I could see every person listening to this story. If you are going through something similar, I want you to know this. Your dignity is not negotiable. It does not matter how much they love you or how much you love them. It does not matter if it is your son, your daughter-in-law, your husband. No one has the right to make you feel invisible in your own life. There will be those who tell you that you are selfish for defending yourself, that you are difficult for setting boundaries, that you are cruel for saying no. Let them talk. Because at the end of the day, you are the one who has to live with your decisions. And it is better to live with the peace of having defended your value than with the regret of having let yourself be erased. This was my story. A story of betrayal, yes, but also of resurrection, of discovering that even at 68 years old, you can roar like a lioness. And if I could do it, you can too. It is never too late to recover your voice. It is never too late to say enough. It is never too late to choose yourself. Because true wealth is not in what you possess, but in what you do not allow them to take away. If this story touched your heart, leave me a comment telling me where you are watching us from. Hit that like button if you have ever had to defend yourself from someone you loved, and subscribe for more real stories of women who refuse to be invisible. Remember, your dignity is worth more than any relationship. Until the next story, and may you never, never let anyone dim your light.